Just hours after saying their vows, when most couples disappear behind closed doors, one of Korea's most private celebrity couples did the opposite. No honeymoon photos, no celebratory interviews, no carefully staged happiness. Instead, Kim Woo-bin and Shin stepped into a room filled with cameras and delivered a decision so unexpected that fans around the world were left completely stunned. This was not an announcement designed to excite. It was a statement meant to change everything. Just hours after their wedding ceremony concluded, when most couples would instinctively retreat into privacy, Kim Woo-bin and Shin made a decision that immediately unsettled expectations. They did not appear before the media to celebrate, nor to perform happiness. Instead, they stood quietly, composed, and unmistakably serious. The atmosphere was restrained, almost solemn, as if the moment demanded respect rather than applause. This was not the familiar rhythm of celebrity life. It felt deliberate, measured, and deeply considered. From the outset, it became clear that the purpose of this appearance was not attention, but control. Control over their own narrative. By speaking immediately, they removed the space where rumors often thrive. Silence in this case would have invited distortion. Honesty, they believed, was the more responsible choice. What struck many observers was not the content alone, but the timing. Choosing transparency at such a personal moment signaled a quiet confidence. They were not reacting to pressure, they were setting boundaries. In doing so, they reframed the moment entirely, not as a post-wedding spectacle, but as a transition, marking the end of one chapter and the intentional beginning of another. When the couple revealed their intention to work on a film together, the initial reaction was curiosity. Yet that curiosity quickly deepened into something more reflective as the nature of the project became clear. This was not a romantic narrative designed to mirror their public image, nor was it a glossy portrayal of love under the spotlight. Instead, the film would draw from the quieter, less visible chapters of their lives, periods shaped by uncertainty, physical vulnerability, emotional endurance, and long stretches of waiting without guarantees. What made this announcement resonate was its restraint. There was no attempt to dramatize hardship or to present resilience as spectacle. Rather, the project was framed as a shared reflection, a way of translating lived experience into something that others might recognize themselves in. By grounding the film in reality, they shifted its purpose. It was no longer about their story alone, but about the countless individuals who navigate similar struggles without recognition. In choosing this approach, they positioned art not as escape, but as acknowledgement. The film, they explained, would move slowly, allowing space for silence and ambiguity. It would not offer easy resolutions, and perhaps most importantly, it would not ask for admiration. Instead, it would invite understanding. A subtle but powerful distinction that redefined what collaboration and storytelling could mean at this stage of their lives. What transformed the project from a personal narrative into something far more significant was the intention behind its execution. The film was not designed to exist solely within cinemas or streaming platforms. Its impact, they emphasized, was meant to extend beyond the screen. Each filming location would be selected not only for visual relevance, but for its connection to real communities, places where illness, long-term medical challenges, or economic hardship are part of daily life. The production would not simply arrive, capture its scenes, and move on. Instead, the process itself would slow down. Filming would pause to allow space for tangible contributions, collaboration with local organizations, quiet acts of assistance, and support tailored to the specific needs of each community. These efforts were described not as gestures, but as responsibilities. What distinguished this approach was its absence of performance. There was no emphasis on publicity, no promise of visibility for the good being done. The intention was to leave something meaningful behind without demanding recognition in return. In an industry often criticized for extracting stories without giving back, this philosophy felt quietly radical. Art, in this case, was not positioned as a product, but as a participant, one that listens, responds, and remains accountable to the people whose realities inspired it. If the film announcement prompted reflection, the next revelation brought silence. After completing the project, the couple confirmed their plan to step away from the entertainment industry for an indefinite period. There was no framing of this decision as temporary, no strategic language about future returns. The absence of timelines was intentional. This was not a pause designed to build anticipation. It was a withdrawal shaped by clarity. Their reasoning was neither dramatic nor defensive. It was grounded in a reassessment of priorities. Having experienced vulnerability firsthand, they spoke of time not as a resource to be managed, but as something fragile, easily lost. Some opportunities, they acknowledged, can be revisited. Early childhood cannot. They expressed a desire to be fully present, not balancing parenthood around schedules, nor dividing attention between private life and public obligation. This choice, they made clear, was not about stepping away from supporters, but stepping into a role they felt demanded completeness. For many fans, the shock did not come from the decision itself, but from its certainty. There was no attempt to soften its impact. In that honesty lay its emotional weight, a reminder that sometimes the most difficult choices are the ones made without compromise. As the press conference drew towards its conclusion, a broader philosophy emerged, one that quietly challenged conventional measures of achievement. In an environment that equates visibility with relevance, they chose restraint. In a profession built on constant momentum, they chose stillness. Success, as they framed it, was no longer about accumulation or endurance, but alignment. Living in a way that reflects one's values at each stage of life. They did not present their decision as a model for others, nor did they seek validation. Instead, they spoke with calm acceptance of both the admiration and disappointment their choice might inspire. What they asked for was not agreement, but understanding. Their agencies confirmed that this path had been discussed long before it was shared publicly. It was not a reaction to circumstances, but a continuation of a private conversation that had unfolded over years. In the end, what lingered was not the absence they would leave behind, but the intention with which they were leaving. By redefining success as presence, depth, and responsibility, they offered a quiet alternative to the noise of constant achievement, one that resonates long after the cameras are turned off. If you appreciate thoughtful stories that go beyond the headlines, make sure to subscribe to Update X24/4H. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for staying curious about the human stories behind the news. We'll see you in the next update.